Last time we talked, I said, hey, man, things change quickly. All it takes is one game for momentum to swing and things to happen. And here we are. Momentum has swung and things have happened. Now, I'll talk about the Anthony Davis incident storyline here in a minute, but let's first talk about the gameplay and what actually happened and what actually matters. No, not that that doesn't matter, but it's gotten a little out of hand, right? Let's start with Andrew Wiggins. 25, 7, and 5. Clearly his best performance since his return, since his hiatus. We've been talking all series long about how the Warriors are going to keep Anthony Davis in the pick and roll action and above the three-point line. And we've seen the game of chess as far as hiding him basically on different players that the Warriors don't want in the pick and roll action. I said it a couple of games. Hey, let's use Wiggs. Let's try Wiggs. So they try Wiggs, right? And here's the thing. You know, James Wiseman, watching him try to set screens was very frustrating, right? And, you know, he's not alone. Like when you look around the league, there are a lot of guys that just don't set screens well. As fundamental as it is, for whatever reason, there's a lot of younger players that just don't know how to set screens, right? But there is an art to the pick and roll game. There is a timing. It starts with a willingness, though. You have to be willing to actually set the screen. But then there is a timing and a feel and a roll to the pocket, a chemistry with the ball handler that's just not always there, right? And so the Warriors were reluctant to use Wiggins in that pick and roll action. In Game 5, they weren't. And I was impressed. Wiggins was sticking the screens. He feels very comfortable on the roll, right? And I think that moving forward beyond this series, really beyond this year, next season, regardless who else is on that roster or who's not on that roster, I think we need to see more Steph, Andrew Wiggins pick and rolls. You saw what Steph's been doing and how comfortable he's been. Wiggins is sticking screens. His vertical spacing, his threat as the screener, it simplifies things. It makes things easier. And so that was really my big takeaway in them using that. And then today's sponsor, So Rare NBA, the online fantasy card game. The playoffs are getting tight and decks are getting tighter, right? You're also seeing rotations change, sometimes out of desperation. Like, what else are we going to do? What other adjustments do we have? You saw Tom Thibodeau play Quentin Grimes 48 minutes yesterday. Not a huge stat line, but moving forward, if they're going to stick with that recipe, he's a guy you might consider when you look at the Sixers Celtics series. Daniel House Jr. introduced himself there. Right now, if you have Grant Williams, who has been underwhelming this season, if somehow Boston can get out of this series and see Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals yet again, I think Grant Williams is a guy you want to keep in mind. If you move over to the West Coast now, TJ Warren, is he going to be Monty Williams' spread the floor corner shooter the rest of this series? Obviously, when you look at the Lakers and Warriors, Lonnie Walker is a name that's introduced himself to perhaps a fifth spot on your roster. What about Moses Moody? Does Kerr have the courage to play him even more? Those are some names I'm throwing out there moving into the conference finals as far as a fifth roster spot. That's So Rare NBA. You can still join my league. The link is in the description. And then we saw Draymond finally be Draymond, right? He gets the and one. Was it on Vando? And he barks on him. Then he tells AD, watch your mouth. He's at the line, right? It was like, okay, that looks like Draymond finally, as far as his temperament against the opponent. Couple minutes later, he takes a charge on AD. He Iversons him. He steps over him and he's, grimacing like, oh no, you ain't helping him up now? Okay, bet. That bodes well for us. The friendliness is gone from Draymond. And he proceeded, you saw him. That was about as aggressive offensively as I've seen Draymond. It's been years. There's been times, there's been games where he comes out with a mindset like that, but it usually isn't sustained for 48 minutes. And he was aggressive, attacking the basket, using Steph's gravity, and finishing strong and well the entire game. And so it led to a 20-point night from Draymond Green. Maybe we can just stop there, right? When Draymond has a 20-point stat line, you can probably guess the outcome of the game. But I think the other element of this is, Wiggins' big night. You look at the box score. What was Klay, like 3 of 12 or something like that? He continues to really struggle. When's the last time Wiggins has taken more shots than Klay in a game? Probably the last time Klay sat, right? Like in that dichotomy, it's not really talked about. And Klay is the guaranteed number 2 option in a way because of the history of what they've done. You understand that. But you saw how successful they were last night with Wiggins kind of being that guy. And I thought putting him in the pick and roll empowered him to just be more aggressive overall. Maybe it was just the moment in the sense of elimination, right? And that's the other thing that I think you saw the Warriors' advantage, which I think we all expected was when a team is on the brink of elimination, part of why it's so difficult to eliminate teams is the 50-50 balls and the sense of urgency is always going to go in favor of the team facing elimination. And I thought that played out as well last night, just winning the loose balls, winning the rebounding battle. I guess that's another story is you see Darvin Ham has slowly but surely kind of yielded to a smaller lineup, that 3-guard lineup, Schroeder and Lonnie Walker instead of Vanderbilt. Now, there's a give and a take to that, right? Schroeder's been really good. He has killed us since he's been in the league. He's just a sneaky player. But in turn, you notice the Warriors are winning the glass, and as good of a rim protector as AD is, getting him out of there, who would be the second guy in there altering shots and rebounding? It'd be Vanderbilt. He only played 11 minutes last night, so they've kind of slowly yielded to a little more small ball, if you will. You're never going to be small with AD and LeBron out there, but you know what I'm saying. And so you wonder if headed into game 6, Darvin Ham's going to stick with that small guard lineup for the spacing and quickness and offense, essentially, or go back to more minutes from Vanderbilt to have some rebounding and some defensive length, a little more rim protection out there. I can't call it. Darvin Ham's been pretty dynamic, right? So we'll see what that move is with him. But as far as moving into this game 6, listen, Klay, man, it's been a struggle, and we understand he deserves and he's earned every opportunity to play this out and try to have a bounce back game. He does, right? But when you think about Klay and his ability to kind of go unconscious and go hot and just make these ridiculous shots, I think part of Klay's mentality has always been kind of being aloof and the ability to kind of not really care. Right? I call it the Manny Ramirez gene or trait, right? Manny Ramirez up at the plate, he doesn't feel no pressure, right? He's kind of loopy. He's kind of just out there. And so that ability kind of almost allowed him to perform better. And I think in a lot of ways, Klay is like that. Like when he wants it too much, when he tries to focus too much, he's not Klay, right? It's back to the baseball analogy. It's like if you're swinging for the fences, you ain't going to hit it. You got to just make contact clean and then you get it, right? And so I don't want to put the pressure of a game 6 Klay performance on him. And I think he's already done that. And that's why you've seen him struggle. If Klay could come out with the mentality of worry about everything else but shots, defensive rotations, rebounding, communicating, loose balls, switches, right? Then, the carefree nature of his shot would return. Right. But some of this is just matchups, right? The Lakers have big guys, big wings, and Klay's advantage is usually to shoot over the top with his size, and it's not there. But I say all that to say, if it starts to go south in this game 6 with Klay Thompson, and he's struggling, boy, Moses Moody's looked pretty good, man. He's looked pretty good, and he's looked more than ready for the moment. And the question is, does Steve Kerr have, I don't want to say the nerve, and I almost don't want to say the courage, the heart to play Moody in place of Klay, or just a little. I'm not saying the entire game, but you get what I'm saying when it matters in an elimination game. But I think we all know the answer to that. He's going to ride or die with Klay, as he should, right? These guys are attached at the hip. When you win that much, you're going to go down together regardless of the situation. But I just point out that, if this thing is close in game 6, there may be some times where you might want Moody out there who's still going to give you some spacing and has just performed better in a vacuum in this series. What about Jordan Poole? Listen, the stat line's not going to knock your socks off. What do you have? Like 11 points, 4 assists, not very efficient. But the context of how he played, his mentality, I want to celebrate, because you're not always going to get results. Sometimes it's a mindset change and you've got to stick to it before the results happen. But you saw the business-like approach from Poole. He came in very serious, couple of mid-range pull-ups. I like the shot quality. He wasn't doing too much, couple of assists, right? And so the defensive end, yeah, it's a ways away. If we want to get into the fundamentals of it, he has a lot of fundamental issues defensively, right? And maybe I'll put a video out on that later. It starts with not sliding his feet. Instead of sliding over, he hops. And so that's why whenever there's kind of contact, he seems so weak. Guys just blow through him, right? Because he's hopping. He gets his gravity and his weight up, and then he can't hold his ground. He doesn't slide. But there's a lot more than that. But today's not the video for that. But I thought that he approached the game with the right mindset. And if he can do that the rest of the series, I think the production will go up for him. All right, let's talk about this AD fiasco. First off, to say it's intentional is ridiculous, right? What was more intentional? If we want to do that, the elbow to Wiggins from Braun at midcourt was certainly more in that gray area than Looney blindly swinging his hands up. You know what I'm saying? So that's just ridiculous, right? Then you see both teams. It's very interesting because if this were to have taken place in LA, is there the wheelchair thing? Was this partly the Chase Center staff and medical getting him in a wheelchair? Like, hey, he's wobbly, right? There is some gamesmanship and posturing going on as far as this concussion protocol. But and I know, if you watch enough sports, the NFL, it's wild, right? But they weren't going to put him into concussion protocol, right? Whether he was concussed or not. And so, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to play in this game 6, but at what capacity? We already know that his motor and competitive spirit kind of goes up and down. And now, if he truly is concussed, to ask him to go out there on that stage in that type of intensity, what type of Anthony Davis are you going to get? And listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all, and I want to be clear here. I'm sure some of you are going to misinterpret this and think this is foul, but let's be perfectly honest here. Warrior fans, Warriors Twitter, Warriors podcasters, you don't have to pretend that you hope AD is okay. It's kind of an unwritten rule. You're around sports long enough, football, basketball, whatever, baseball, whatever it is. In the playoffs, let's be clear here. Regular season's a different thing. In a playoff, when an opponent gets hurt, you don't celebrate it. That's classless, right? But you don't have to act like you hope he's all right. However, it does change if it's something catastrophic, right? If you see like a Paul George knee injury or, like Gordon Hayward, something like that, where it's just like, dude, I feel bad. Like, I hope he's all right, right? But when it's something more minor, an ankle roll or a forearm to the head, again, I don't think you have to pretend like, you don't want anything like if AD 2 weeks from now is still dizzy and having issues, then it's like, yeah, damn, like I feel bad. I hope he's all right, right? But I'm not going to sit around and say, oh, I hope he's all right for game 6. No, I hope he's slow. I hope he's not the same player. There, I said it, right? Come on, like, what are we doing here? This conversation on Twitter, it's so fake. Because if you were at a barbecue watching the game with Warrior fans, or you were at a sports bar, what I just said is what would be said, right? I don't want anything long-term to happen to Anthony Davis or anybody, right? Not that, but let's be honest. As a fan, in these moments, you want the competitive edge. So long as it's not a long-term thing for somebody. Now, some of you may say, well, dude, it's very serious. Concussion, like CTE. I understand that. But again, there's a nuance to it. And I think he's going to be all right. And I want him to be all right long-term. But if he's a little groggy and slowed in game 6, I'm not going to sit here and act like, dang, I wish AD was 100%. It's just phony to me. Anyway, that's my take on it. But I do think he will play. And again, you just wonder at what capacity. And then this momentum has swung towards the Warriors. That being said, the lobbying between the coaches, Kerr suggesting they're flopping, Ham saying we don't teach that, right? And look, it's yours. I don't think you can teach that. I mean, listen, I think you can call plays that are designed to draw fouls, right? And I think the Lakers do that, but it's really your personnel. Reeves, D'Lo, and Vanderbilt. I didn't know he was the flopper that he is, but I'm watching. And Schroeder is the number one culprit. This is just a part of their game, right? And they're very good at it. And so it is what it is. You combine that with this AD incident, which it shouldn't matter, but it might as far as this whistle in Los Angeles Friday night. And so as good as the Warrior fans can feel right now, and the Warriors can feel about that win, and the Wiggins pick and roll, and him contributing, Draymond's aggression, all that with Steph and Klay not shooting that well, right? This is a scenario where it feels like, damn, they might be able to pull this out, right? I don't know. I don't know. Again, I think we're going to be up against it with the refereeing in that game 6. And you imagine LeBron now at this point is going to empty the clip, right? He's the masterful pacer that he is as far as his gas tank. You imagine game 6, he's going to go all in to try to end this. He doesn't want to make another trip up to San Francisco, right? And so it's going to be very difficult. Anyway, I hope y'all don't misunderstand what I'm saying about the AD stuff. I don't wish injury upon anybody, but I'm also not going to sit around and be fake about what it is. And so hopefully he is long-term all right. But if he doesn't have a great rest of this series, don't front. You'll take it, right? Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.